would like to welcome everybody to our In a Holidaze event for Christina Lauren. And we are so excited to have you here, and we are delighted that you will be in conversation tonight with our friend who is also a book-selling compadre as well as an author, Rebekah Weatherspoon, and the fabulous Lily Herman will be leading the conversation. And so without further ado, Lily, I'm going to let you take it away.
Yay. Alrighty. Hi, everyone who is joining. My name is Lily Herman. I am a writer and editor. I write about books. I write about the culture. I also write about politics. And there is absolutely nothing going on in American politics nowadays. So
very chill.
Great.
Nothing at all.
Have a book out.
Yeah. It's been a good release week. Super quiet.
Very chill, very casual, nothing to see here.
Nope.
But I am beyond excited to be talking to all three of you because In a Holidaze is fantastic. Rebekah, I binge read a ton of your books in recent months, but particularly I just also finished the Beards and Bondage series with Harbor recently. So things have been getting particularly steamy over here. But I'm super excited to chat, like I said, with all three of you. So just to kick us off, obviously, for those who are getting acquainted, Christina and Lauren, can you give us a synopsis of In a Holidaze? And then Rebekah, could you just talk a little bit about your book, If the Boot Fits, which is coming out on October 27th?
Yes. I need it. I need new Rebekah books. Seriously. Okay, so In a Holidaze. This is the book that came out Tuesday, and it's a time-jumping romance. The premise is the main character, Mae Jones. She has been going to the same cabin every holiday season with the same group of families, having the same traditions every year, and she's very in love with these traditions. It is very important to her. She's still living at home. She hates her job. Going to this cabin is like the one thing she really loves. And this year, she has a little too much eggnog on Christmas. She wakes up the next morning and she has kissed the wrong brother. She has been in love with Andrew her entire life, and she made out with his brother Theo, which is kind of awkward. And so everything is just kind of going to crap, and she finds out at breakfast the next morning that they're selling the cabin, so it's just bad. So she throws out a wish to the universe saying, what will make me happy? Show me what will make me happy. And tires screech and metal crunches, and before she knows it, Mae is back in the airplane headed to the beginning of the holiday all over again. So she has to figure out why she was sent back and what will make her happy.
Love it.
Dun, dun, dun.
Dun, dun, dun.
Indeed. So my book is If the Boot Fits. Here it is. Lovely.
I love that cover.
Hot cowboy in a tux, hot cowboy in a tux. This is a modern cowboy Cinderella retelling about a young lady named Amanda who is a personal assistant who has a one-night stand with an actor / cowboy named Sam Pleasant, who the night he wins his first Oscar. So it's a big night to celebrate. Oscar parties, Oscar after parties, a little adult sleepover action. But the next morning she has to go back to her job as a lowly assistant. So she thinks she's never going to see Sam again, but lo and behold, she runs into him at the best place to run into somebody, a wedding.
Oh,
So they keep bumping into each other, and they realize that, you know, her Cinderella story is meant to be. Love ensues. And there's horses and 4 dogs.
oh my gosh, I'm so excited. I'm so excited.
I love it. And yes, that cover is dynamite. I absolutely
Yes.
love it.
She's got some good covers, I'm just saying.
Yes, she does.
We brought these with us to Utah.
Yes, we did.
Oh, excellent. Well,
No,
I
we
made
even
sure
have-
that
I have
I made
some that
sure
are
I
in
had
mass
this
market.
right here, sitting here waiting for this episode. I got one too.
So before I start asking my various questions and whatnot, a reminder to the audience, we're going to do obviously us chatting for a little bit and then some audience Q&A. So there is a Q&A function for audience members, or there should be, for you to submit questions, which I will be asking in a bit. So feel free to submit those whenever. I guess some people will obviously probably put them in the chat as well. So I'll try to keep up with those too. But yeah, so before we dive into specifics of the books and such, I just feel like a lot of people are leaning into romance, especially, I mean, at the beginning of the pandemic, yes, but especially now that we're over half a year in, it's just gotten, like, the hole has gotten deeper.
Yeah.
So as writers, how has the pandemic impacted your writing and the kinds of stories you want to write right now?
Get it, Rebekah.
Oh, thank you so much. It's been actually really hard. I mean, I think the three of us, all three of us write relatively fast. I think in the grand scheme of publishing, we're pretty fast writers, I think. And I've had a lot of deadlines this year and had to stick to them. And it's been hard. It's been really, really hard. Especially the last 3 weeks or so. I was like so excited to like get started writing some more books, like did a great death chart and like outlined 2 books and everything. And then it was just like, oh, a lot is really happening right now. This is like a lot. And am I gonna die if I step out my front door? So I love writing romance and it's like a balm to the soul, but it's been difficult, especially the last like 3 months.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I would agree with that 100%. We are starting a new book, and it is a book we've wanted to write for a long time and we're excited about, but getting into it has been
so hard,
a big struggle.
Mm-hmm.
Probably more than it has been
for anything else.
Yeah, it's just like, it's hard to focus. It's hard. I mean, I totally understand why people are reading romance right now. I mean, like, the thing about romance is like, we are guaranteed a happily ever after.
It's so
like
hopeful.
What in the world right now is a guarantee? So, but yeah, man, it's been a struggle. It's like a focus struggle. Like, yeah.
Yeah, but I think we're lucky in the sense that we haven't flailed at the same time. So like the beginning of the pandemic, I was like, and she was a little bit like, what is happening?
Oh yeah, I
and
had 2 weeks of just like absolute meltdown.
Yeah, but then the last like month or so, I'm like, what is writing? Like, I don't know how to do it. And she has been a lot calmer in that sense. So it's been, I think that's like one lucky thing, but still, this is a rough year. I mean, I speak the obvious, but it really is. So,
especially because we don't necessarily know that it's going to improve when the calendar switches over. I think I remember in 2016, I had a cake for New Year's Eve that said "Suck It 2016," and now I look back and I'm like, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. It was me. It wasn't you.
It was you. It was 2016. 2016 set all this shit up.
Christina, that's what you said is like a really good point, because this morning I like sat down to start writing and was like, all right, dude, you like have to write. And in my brain, I was like, the reason you're having a problem writing is because you actually, usually when I like write a book, I'm like, oh, I can like see the cover, I can see it on the shelf, I can like see it finished, I can see people reading it. And now my brain is like, we're all gonna die. And I really can't picture the finished product just like being out in the world, because I feel like maybe there's not gonna be a world. So it's like a real like existential crisis of like, I actually don't know what's gonna happen. And that's really scary. Not that we ever know.
Romance novels, we do. We know they're going to end up together.
And I'm going to say, like, we have really kind of like taken solace in things that make us happy this year. And we actually, in the acknowledgements, like mentioned Rebekah.
Yeah.
Because her book, like her writing has been something that has like been a happy place for us. We love her so much.
Yep. I'm actually going to find it.
Look,
Rebekah Weatherspoon.
I did see that. Yeah, all this week, like my roommate she was like a little nervous because I was acting like really weird. But all week it was like CNN in a holiday, CNN in like all week. I was just like, I was like sitting there like clutching the book, like watching Brian Williams, like we're all gonna die. Let me read this book. Like that was me.
I know.
All week this week. So.
Yeah. Yep. I definitely had a period.
Light and fluffy thing for you, Lily.
Well, I was going to say, I had a period in September where I was doing so much political writing about like explainers on like, what is voter suppression? And I'm like, 1,200 words on voter suppression is the thing I love to discuss all the time. And I found myself, the only anyone who's in my book club with me knows the only books I could read were new adult college hockey romances, and they were mostly Bill Kennedy's books. And and it was like, I have never played hockey. I don't watch hockey. I have not been in college in many years, but that's all I could emotionally handle while I was having to report on the news and explain like our impending and current doom to everyone. So it was.
You just have to find that comfortable little cocoon, and just that's where we live sometimes, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Big time. And then the other question actually I had, because you all have been also you all had books also come out that's how long the pandemic's been going on. I know, we had the Honey Don't List, we had Harbor, we had all these different books that have come out in the midst of this. So how has that been too, having to, as authors, be obviously trying to write and then promote books, and obviously having to do a bunch of these fun little virtual shenanigans?
It's great. Yeah, no, I mean, it's been hard. I mean, I think the virtual events, fine. Like you guys, I could be not wearing pants, and that's great. So that part of it I really love. I have slippers on.
Mm-hmm.
You can't see it. But I think it's hard because, this is true for Rebekah too. She is a very social person. She's funny. She loves being in a room full of people who love books. And I think for us, it's really hard to not be able to connect with readers in person. And it's hard to not be able to go to the bookstore and see your book on shelves. I mean, we can do that, but it's different now, But I think what's been hardest for us this week, and we sort of made a couple jokes about it on Twitter, which is just like, we're sitting here going like, hey, buy our book. It's got some kissing in it and it's really great. And then Nancy Pelosi is like, we're going to take this president out of office because he's not fit. And we're like, that's okay. There's a book out. Like, it just, you feel a little bit like shallow and also just sort of ridiculous. But at the same time, and the replies are lovely. People are telling us this is what we need. We need romance. And it's true. Like, we need that. So we sort of have to like beg forgiveness for promoting ourselves in such a weird time. But it's just a weird mix of feelings,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm the, I guess, rare weirdo who like doesn't feel weird about promoting my books. I'll promote my books like all the time.
You're good. That's what you should do. Like, we
don't think anything bad of anybody. We are just like, is it okay to tweet this?
Oh yeah. If there's any writers in the room or any aspiring writers, just promote your books. Trust me. Because I feel like it's one of those things too now that social media is enough a part of our lives. Like, I think at first when we were all trying to like sort it out, it was a little different. But now I feel like social media is such a part of our lives. If you see a book promo, just it like goes right past you. It's not like So we might as well put it there for the one person who like wants to catch it, and then they're like, "Oh, I'll buy this book and read it like when I'm done crying." Like that's But no, it has been very interesting. I was actually really sad because Steph and Dan, the lovely folks at Water Street Bookstore in Exeter, New Hampshire, my hometown, Stephanie asked me if I wanted to come do an event in June for A Cowboy to Remember, and I hadn't seen my parents in over a year, and I was like so excited, like my first thing at my hometown bookstore, get to see my parents for the first time in forever, and then it's like, so I think that's been like really hard, just not being able to do book things that you want to do. I also think, again, for writers, we're like hermit weirdos, so a lot of our social life is actually planned around our books. So when you take away like everything, it's just, I don't get to do book stuff, and I don't get to see readers, and I don't get to see other authors, and it's just, it's no fun. But I hope people are finding books and, finding good stuff they're able to read while they're stuck at home.
Yeah, because we like have to remind ourselves not everybody is online.
Yeah.
So like especially the holiday season, we have a holiday book that hopefully would be like visible in a store in the holiday, and that's not really
how people are shopping.
People aren't really going to be shopping that way. So just that not being, people aren't really going to bookstores, particularly you guys who live in California, where it's been more closed down and is just starting to open. In Utah, things are like limited and stuff, but it's not as tight as, California and stuff is.
So moving on to a happy topic, which is the books. I actually love hearing how romance authors come up with their book ideas. So I need to know, how did we get to this Groundhog Day meets a cute, adorable Hallmark movie. You know, Rebekah, cowboy romances. I love it. I want to hear more. So how did you all come up with the ideas for these books?
You guys go.
Well, it's funny because initially the story with Mae and Andrew was totally different. She was going to come to the cabin and be so excited to confess to Andrew her feelings, and then actually in the first version, she was in love with Theo. She was going to come to the cabin and confess her feelings to Theo and be surprised to find her new roommate she barely knows is Theo's girlfriend. And in the process of figuring out how to deal with that, she and Andrew fell in love, but it just wasn't working because Andrew was the hero, the clear hero from the start. And so I think one of the things that we kind of played with a little is our own tendency to have to go back in time and figure out how to make something work. And that it kind of organically happened that we were like, it's the only time of year that we can really put some magic in a contemporary. I mean, it's not, but it feels like it's a natural time around the holidays. And so I think it was sort of born from that, where we had the cabin, we had the families, we had the couple, and then we just had to figure out how to get them together.
We also watched Happy Death Day, which
Yes.
if anybody has watched, is the most clever, funny, dark comedy.
Yeah.
And so we sort of got, a little bit of the idea of how she keeps going back from that.
I think we were a little bit like, how do we do this?
Yeah.
And we were like, we want Happy Death Day, but romance.
And the holidays.
Yeah.
It makes a lot of sense because I'm over here Groundhog Day, Hallmark together, and then Happy Death Day. I'm like, yes, infinitely more succinct, but also I get it.
Perfect. Yeah, I did not have some beautiful epiphany. I've wanted to write cowboys forever. And I came up with 2 different versions of it that everyone in publishing thought sucked. So we went back to the drawing board more than once. And then I just had a light bulb moment and I was like, oh, what if I do fairy tale retellings and cowboys? And my agent, Holly Root, who's also there, was like, oh, that's a great idea. And I felt good about it. I think when I feel really good about something, then it's time to write it. So, the horrible process of writing and rereading the first chapters 798 times before you actually put out a book. But yeah, the fairy tale thing just clicked, and doing a Sleeping Beauty one for the first book was actually really hard because both versions of Sleeping Beauty, the original fairy tale and the Disney version, it's how do you have a heroine who's asleep for a good chunk of the story? And also in the Disney version, it's mostly about their dads. I went back and rewatched it and I was like, this is about 2 dudes trying to get their kingdoms together. This isn't even about the love story. And then about a petty witch who's mad she wasn't invited to a party. And in the original fairy tale, most of the story is actually about a goblin queen who's trying to eat her son's new wife and their children. And I was like, I don't want to put that in a romance. That's really weird. So I settled on the amnesia plot, and then now I've arrived at Cinderella. So, and Beauty and the Beast will be the 3rd one.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
For Jessie.
I'm so excited.
I love it. And so actually it's a perfect segue. I always am also fascinated by tropes. So obviously, Rebekah, with your book, even though you're following these different fairy tales, there's obviously a lot of fairy tales to choose from. And I personally love a good romance that involves some form of a celeb. If there is a celebrity involved, I'm in. Yeah. And so, yeah, would love to know how did you narrow down to the fairy tales you chose and why this particular trope?
I don't actually know why I picked Sleeping Beauty. I have no idea why I picked that. And in retrospect, I was like, why did you pick that? But it worked out fine. It's Cinderella and Beauty and the Beast. Listen, some stuff is genius and some stuff is oh, that was lucky.
We agree.
And Cinderella and Beauty and the Beast are 2 of my favorites. So that was kind of I do at some point want to do a Rumpelstiltskin one. I was like, I need to figure out like just the idea of like letting someone in slowly and they have to learn things about you slowly. I thought that would be really clever. So one day I'll do a Rumpelstiltskin story, but I don't know if it'll be a cowboy Rumpelstiltskin story. And I was researching like Black people in the Old West, and then I was researching horses in film. And I learned all this stuff about like the guy who was the horse trainer for Mr. Ed. And like, yeah, like, so I learned all this stuff about like Hollywood horse trainers, and that's what kind of gave birth to the grandparents' like backstory. And then I just kind of went from there. I was just researching old Hollywood and stuff like that. And then it gave birth to 97 family members and friends and a lot of dogs and horses. And sometimes I feel like I made a mistake.
In summary.
It happens. And then Christina and Lauren, you all have this like magnificent friends to lovers story going on here. And I know it's not the first time that you two have done friends to lovers. And I'm sure it will not be the last. I hope not. I personally love a good friends to lovers story. So what made you decide to come back to it? And I know you had started talking earlier about how this book ended up meandering in terms of where it started and where it ended. But what kind of drew you to friends to lovers? You know, we're going to do this again.
So I think that one was sort of incidental because initially it was going to be the older brother trope, right? Like she kind of had a thing for Theo, and then turns out Andrew's like the guy. But then once we started writing Andrew, he just was so fun. He was just a delightful character to live with for a while because he's just genuinely good, you know? And so you see why Mae loves him. But we really love writing friends to lovers. I mean, I think one of my favorites is Dark Wild Night that we did. Much different heat level than we have with In a Holidaze, but I love that Lola and Oliver get their friendship to develop over a couple of books before we get their book, which is one of the nice things about series too. So yeah, I think we don't always say, let's write a friends to lovers book. It's more like, who are the people? How do they meet? How do they get together? And then you sort of figure out, like, you hear in your outlining what the trope is, right? Because we all sort of speak in trope. And so we sort of see that start to crystallize.
And did you all have to do, or what sort of research did you end up doing when you were deciding on the sort of time travel elements that you have going on in here? You know, was there a particular inspiration? Was it just kind of poking around and you wanted to do something that had like a tiny bit of sci-fi in it? How did you come to that plot point?
It was messy. Like, I think part of the problem is with film, when you get a reboot, you can kind of zip through to catch them up to speed, right? But in a book, you don't want to bore the reader. And so we had to write it and then cut it so that people didn't feel like they were like, oh my gosh, I'm reading the same thing over and over. Okay. And I think that was the tricky part, was how do you get people back into the present moment while still seeing Mae kind of losing her mind about how confused she is, right?
And we didn't even get that right. I mean, we turned this book in, and then like the next day or something, we had been talking and realized that we sort of did it wrong because originally, and I'm going to totally get this incorrect, but originally we had it like, it opened up, like we had like a brief thing and then it skipped ahead and it was like a year later.
Yeah.
And
it was the same holiday over
we had to have like this year where she had kissed the wrong brother that they hadn't spoken, and she was going to see him again.
Yeah, it was very wrong. It was very bad.
So then we had to like rewrite it on a shorter deadline, and and also not, you know, be like too repetitive. So
you guys did a great job. I was reading it and I was like, I couldn't have done this. I was like, oh, this was like, I was just thinking of the process. Like sometimes you read as a reader and sometimes you read as a writer.
Yeah.
And when I like realized like how it was going, I was like, oh crap. I was like, this must have been really hard to write.
There was a lot of deleting.
Well, you guys did a really good.
It's one of our shorter books, but we wanted it to be an easy, fun read. But I think a lot of that was because we had to really trim it so it didn't feel tedious.
Yeah, it was kind of going back and like, oh, we didn't need this. Yeah. Oh, we don't need to hear this again. Oh, we need to make sure we have this clue here. And yeah.
You did a good job.
Thank you.
I also personally love that, like, it's not gonna, you know, for people who are listening who haven't read it yet, it doesn't become too mechanical and how everything, you know, works and whatnot. Because sometimes I think books can get a little lost in the specific logistics of how.
Oh, there was a moment where we were like, do we need to explain? And then we were like, you know what though? I actually enjoyed Happy Death Day 1 more when I didn't know why it keeps happening to her than I did in the second one when we figure it out.
Totally. So I'm just a reminder to the audience here, I'm going to start diving into Q&A questions now. And the first one actually is a perfect tie-in. So Joanne asked, would love for the authors to share their writing process, including when they write and how long it takes to finish a work.
Take it away, Rebekah.
I can also repeat the question again as well at any point.
Every book is different, I want to say. I thought I had a process and I don't now. I had one for like the first 3 books and now I'm writing like my 23rd book and that process is just out the window. Basically, I will come up with an idea. One of the characters will fully appear and I'll have like their whole life worked out. And then I'll sit down and start writing and realize like, I don't even know the hero's last name or the heroine's last name. And I'm like, oops, maybe I should go back. Then I watch TV for 3 days and like walk around in circles and eat and wonder why I'm not working. And then all of a sudden I'm like, oh, right. Like here's his last name. And then I'm off to the races. My upcoming 2 books, I was like, you did that a lot of times in a row and it was miserable. So let's do a lot of outlining. So now I have like a whole beautiful chart with Post-its outlining each chapter and all that stuff. I also have writer's block, so clearly that's not working either. But it depends book to book. And then like day to day, I literally like get up, do stuff with the dog, then noon, I sit down, write till 5, and then I make myself stop at 5. And then when I'm close to deadline, I'll usually like stop at 5 and then start up at 8 and write till midnight and then go to bed. That's usually my daily routine.
Yeah. I mean, I think if 2020 has shown us anything, it's that we don't write in a sort of controlled environment, right? So like our life is different in 2020 than it was in 2013 when we first published. I mean, we were writing fic in 2009, you know, and our lives are really different than they were then. So like you can't control the variables of your life, right? And so 2020 is like the most extreme example of that. So our process has to be flexible. Sometimes we're traveling more, sometimes we're not traveling at all. Sometimes the ideas are really clear. Sometimes they feel clear and then you start. This is the weirdest thing is when we feel like we really understand the idea and then we start and we're like, what are we doing again? So I think that's kind of where we are with this is like, we thought like, sometimes you just want to take that idea and like just plug a USB thumb drive into your brain and have it somehow download so you can just like translate it. But our process is always that we outline together. There's just a magic that happens when we're in the same room.
Yep.
And then,
Yep, we split it up. And usually, like, you know, we're in 2 different places. I usually try and get up and write, like, you know, be in my office by like 9 or something. I'm just a really slow writer. I try, like, our thing is usually like a chapter a week. And there are weeks it's like hard for me to get that because I'm so slow. Like I was showing Lo my notebook. I was just kind of going through it and it was like 4 pages of handwritten stuff. And I think there's like, even I couldn't make sense out of it. I think there was like 1 line that I'll probably keep.
2020. It's just a lot.
Just like a deep sigh. And then, actually related to that, I know Christina and Lauren, you guys get this question a lot, but how do you decide who's going to write what? And that's from Shannon.
So when it's 2 point of views, usually one of the characters kind of has one or the other of our voices more, right? So like if it's a sort of uptight, neurotic character, I'm going to be like, I got it.
No.
But I think, you know, we just try and stretch ourselves too. So sometimes it's like, I would like to take a shot at this, but mostly our books lately have been, actually that's not necessarily true, but our books more lately have been single point of view. And so then we usually just alternate. And we upload the chapters as we go, and then we edit as we go. So we spend a lot of time editing, so it reads smoothly.
Yeah, because we go chronologically. So, you know, we have to be able to read, which is why I am slower than Lo. So sometimes that's the struggle, because she needs to know what happens. Even though we have an outline, that outline only contains so much.
Totally. Yeah. And then, let's see. Ooh, Rebekah. This question comes from Leslie, and it is, which of your books would you start with for someone who has never read one of your books before?
Okay, so it depends on how pornographic you want it to be.
Rape. Yeah.
If you're like fine with like a good amount of heat, but you don't want anything like crazy happening, definitely start with Rafe. That's like a really sweet, straightforward contemporary. No one gets tied up. There's like nothing. There's no crazy like butt stuff. Like none of that happens. No one dies. I don't murder. If you want paranormal.
I was just gonna say, don't skip over this one.
Right. If you want romantic suspense, you can start with Haven. That also has BDSM elements too, though. So you're getting like real dirty stuff in there. I also have a paranormal queer series. So the first book in that is Better Off Red. And if you want something that's like sweet and has like a little bit of steam, so it's like there is sexy times, but it's not like off the wall, then A Cowboy to Remember is a great place to start.
Such a good book. It's such a good book. Yeah.
Sexy times, but not like blow your hair back. Sexy.
But I'm just going to say, because I know Leslie, so I know her taste level, you will like any of Rebekah's books. You can start anywhere and you can go forward in time and back in time in her catalog, and you will be happy.
Love it. I also do love Rafe, which was, I think, the first one I ever read. And yeah, I think someone had told me like, you should start here and then work your way up. And then Beards and Bondage series, though, I loved. I was slightly ill prepared because of my emotional state, again, covering the election, but I still was like,
speaking of 2016, I wrote that after the election. And after I had gotten out of like a really bad breakup with someone who voted for Trump.
Nope.
So I was like on another planet of angry, and I was like, I can't commit an actual murder, so I need to do it on the page, and I like got it. I got all my anger out in that book. It was
Oh my God, that's amazing.
very therapeutic because I was pissed when I wrote that book.
Yeah, my poor roommate, she was like, oh, what are you reading? And I was like, so there's murder. And she was like, I'm sorry, like romance? It's romantic suspense. Like we're starting there. And she just had to like reorient. But yeah, I think I hooked her. So Caitlin's watching. I think she needs to take a look. Let's see here. We have really good questions. Ooh, an interesting hypothetical question from Michelle. Will we be seeing any forced proximity pandemic romances coming in 2021? Yes or no?
Not from us.
Not from us. I mean, I'm sure you will. Yes, I'm sure you will.
It's too soon for us.
I mean, we are also in a pandemic time, and we're both married, so I'm not going to write like close quarters with a man. I love my husband more than anything in the world, but you know, I am also on a vacation with my work spouse. So yeah, no, I'm sure there'll be a lot of them. I actually think there'll also be a lot of adventure books, like people going out in the world and having big adventures. You know, these are the fantasies that we're all having right now. So I think we might get some destination romances.
Not for me either, not because I don't want to write them. It's just I have a document with all the books I have to write, and right now it's 38 books deep, and none of them are pandemic romances. I mean, I'm sure in February I'll think of one and try and squeeze it in somewhere. But yeah, I think right now it feels a little too miserable for me right now. I'd be fine reading it if someone else wrote one. I actually would be totally fine reading it. But
yeah,
I think like accessing the feelings of that right now.
Yeah.
Also, like I'm like single, so I think it would like make me sad.
I can see that.
Quarantining with a man right now, that sounds fun. But maybe
well, no, it is. It's great.
And then for all of you, what led you to writing romance instead of other genres? And that comes from Hannah.
Should we answer for all three of us because we came out of the same fandom?
We did.
Yes.
We go way back.
Yeah, we were all writing Twilight fanfic. Rebekah, you've written in a bunch of fandoms, so haven't you, or just Twilight?
No, I was I was reading High School Musical fan fiction because I was obsessed with Zac Efron after Hairspray, and I watched everything he was in. And some girl in my office was like, "You should read High School Musical fan fiction," and I was like, "This is weird, but I'm gonna do it." And then I went over to Twilight fan fiction immediately after that.
Yeah,
Yep.
we started Lo's written in a couple fandoms, but our thing. So when we first got Holly, we're signed by Holly. We were writing. We thought we were going to write YA. We had a YA book that was finished and out on submission, and it's funny because we had got an offer from somebody, and then you call everybody and let them know that you have got an offer. And if we would have gone with this other person, they only did children's, so our career would have been just
So
completely different.
Yep.
Oh, that's.
But we love writing. It's our natural voice.
Yeah,
And
it totally is.
It's such a great genre. It's what we read. It's what we love.
Even
so-
our YA book was just full of skinny dipping.
Yeah. So
That was part of the problem. It was just a lot of skinny dipping.
and it's a great community. I think we push for having tough conversations, and we're good at promoting each other and lifting each other up, and I don't know, it's a great place to work.
And also, for those who are not looking in the chat, folks are talking about Spoiler Alert by Olivia Dade, which actually also just came out and deals with fandoms. Oh, Rebekah coming.
Oh, I've seen that cover. Yeah.
It is a gorgeous
I can't wait to
cover.
read this one.
Excellent book. I inhaled it in a single sitting, but has fandoms. It has a lot of really great, intense stuff about body image and the body positivity movement and whatnot. So would definitely recommend that as well. Let's see here. Yeah, I keep getting new questions. For Christina and Lauren, how do you write the love scenes in your books?
We look deeply into each other's eyes.
No.
And
In fact, we were doing past page. Oh, we're turning in past pages, and part of it was I was reading to her the things that I had found, and she was making the final change in the PDF, and so we started having this conversation about.
she was reading this a couple of lines, and we were laying on my bed doing this, and it was just
and there was this moment where I looked at her and I was like, "This is
very
weird." I think I tweeted about it or something, but
yeah.
people always ask if we write them together. No, we tried once writing in a Google Doc at the same time. You read a line and I read a line, and no.
It felt like we were having phone sex.
It was weird.
Usually we just each take the scene, and then we write it, and then we each edit it and make it better, and it's not weird. But I do love when she's like, "Whoa, that scene was great," and she loves when I'm like, "Wow, that scene was great." So there's you think it might be uncomfortable, but it isn't.
Mm-mm.
It's just really fun. It's all entertainment.
Yeah,
it's great.
love it. And actually, same question for you, Rebekah, because I feel like your books can really run the gamut in terms of what's going on.
I try to just think about the couple and what kind of sex each person in that couple wants to be having.
Yes, thank you. I love that about your books.
Some people I do feel write not about themselves, but write their own desires, and I don't. I'm not I want to kill half my heroes. I would never date them in real life. So I'm not writing from a perspective of this is what I want. I always think about what the characters in that scenario want, and also what's going on. So in the Beards and Bondage books, if they're dealing with super traumatic stuff, I feel the sex scenes are going to be heightened.
Mm-hmm.
So I try to do that, and then if I get stuck on, I really actually choreograph out the scenes because they need to make sense. And a lot of my sex scenes are actually very detailed, so everything needs to be in the right place and all that other stuff. So if I get stuck, I usually watch porn for 20 minutes and just try to figure out where I can put limbs and stuff, and I'm oh, okay. I did for Zenny, I actually I'll be honest, I watched a lot of porn when I was writing Zenny because I was trying to figure out how bodies can move, and I had to scientifically just sit there and watch all different ways to do it, and it helped. So
That's awesome. It's the best job.
I don't hate it.
No.
I am having my it was in real life before the pandemic, but my in real life romance book club is reading Zenny this month, and I gave a little. I was like, just so we know, like things get a little heated in here, so I'm just gonna leave it go.
Saucy, yeah.
He's like, we're just gonna let you all see how it goes. Just gonna not say anything. No, I love that. Let's see here. Ooh, a great question from Romer, which is, if each of you had to date a protagonist from one of your books, who would it be?
Harlow.
Oh my gosh, I don't even know. So I used to be I'm not one of those people and that like gets like, I love this character and he's a real person and you know all of these things. But I had like such a crush or something on Ansel when we first wrote that book. Like when we went to Paris, I was like, oh, that's where he would park his motorcycle. So much so that in Dirty Ratty Thing, I was just like writing him in the background all the time. Like Lo would be like, why is Ansel like in every scene in the background just like eating grapes or something?
Yes, he was in every scene.
But I think
Luke.
Yeah. Oh, I have a thing for like the kind of like flirty,
charismatic,
yeah. Sarcastic sort of, you know, but also Josh and Hazel is just like such a like,
I think Andrew
caretaker.
Too.
Yes.
Because he has dimples. I'm sticking with Harlow.
That's a good one. I have a few. Daniel from Sated, my pyrotechnics guy. I love him. Mason from Zenny. He's a sweet guy. I love him. Vaughn from Harbor. Vaughn is like, I think Vaughn might be maybe the nicest, most considerate man I've ever written. He's like,
yeah, I think you're probably right.
Yeah, he's like, he's great.
We get in all shouty caps. I love Vaughn. So
also a great name.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Yeah, Vaughn is like, he's the best. And then of the Pleasant brothers, I think Sam, who's coming up. I think Jesse and I would butt heads too much, and I think Zach's a little too like jokey for me. I think Sam is like perfectly balanced for me and would, you know, be the kind of sweetheart I like. I personally like a sweetie pie. That's me. I like really sweet guys. So some of my heroes are they're not jerks, but like they have attitude problems. So I wouldn't get along with, say, Shep. Shep from Haven, I think.
I love Shep. I'm sorry.
Shep is great, but
I would do some dirty things to Shep.
Shep and I would kill each other.
Like I would murder Bennett.
Yeah.
I don't want none of that.
You know.
I just love a broody man, which I'm sure my therapist has many thoughts on why I like a man who's kind
She's
of.
She's like, I just want to work for it.
It's like, need any enemies to lovers story with like a broody man who's just like grunting and then says something kind of bantery. I'm like, great, like keep him around, even though he's probably terrible in real life. But let's see here. Here's one from an anonymous attendee. I've been rereading favorite books a lot during the pandemic. Have you all been rereading any favorites, or are you just reading new books that you haven't read before?
I'm really struggling to read. I've been reading very slowly, but I've been trying to do new books, and I think that's my problem. I think I need to go back and reread comfort reads and familiar authors, right? So voices that I know and trust. Which is why I really want Rebekah to send me her book tonight.
Done and done.
And you know, I actually saw another author. She was tweeting to try reading middle grade, which I did, and I flew through them. And I was like, this is actually such smart advice because it is just very like not simple writing, but the structure is really palatable and easy to digest. And I think that really helped me. So I don't actually remember the question. I feel like I didn't answer it.
No, you answered it.
Oh, I did. Okay.
I've been actually reading a lot, but what I do is if I'm having a hard time focusing in the beginning, I'm a huge audiobook listener. So I'll listen if I feel like I'm starting to get stuck, or it's been like 5 days and I'm like 20 pages in or something. I'll listen to the audiobook because I can listen to it while I'm doing other things, as opposed to having to like sit and only focus on that. And then because usually when I like I'm reading something, I get either the paper or the ebook, but I always get the audio so I can switch back and forth. And I've been reading like a lot of them. I'm rereading There's Someone Inside Your House by Stephanie Perkins, just because it's like, you know, Halloween. So, but other than that, mostly new books.
Yeah, I've mostly been reading new stuff. I read, let's see, like recent-ish. Also, we're like in a weird time warp, so I'm like recent, and I'm like, that was June.
Yeah,
so
Yeah.
But I finally got to read Priest by Sarah Simone. That was fun.
That's good.
I also got to read There's Something About Sweetie by Sandhya Menheim, and that was really, really cute.
Is that her second one?
Second or third? Because I think there's
maybe
4 of that now.
Yeah,
right?
I really like her writing. She's fun.
It's in the Dimpleverse.
Yeah.
Her writing, if anyone's like stuck and actually wants something to read, jump into the Dimpleverse. They're multicultural YA, like super funny, super easy to read, and I like blew through that book.
Yeah, the first one is When Dimple Met Rishi.
Yes, When Dimple Met Rishi.
Mm-hmm.
And then one of my friends, Janet Eckford, shout out to her. She's also a romance writer. We both will read like really like weird stuff that we find. So I can't remember what it's called. I think it's called like His Human Nanny.
Oh, God.
I think like her sister found some like because we're like deep in the Ice Planet universe as well.
Yeah.
And I've been rationing because I'm just like, you know, waiting for the apocalypse, and I'll just read them all. But we found it's like His Human Nanny and His Human Surrogate. So
I am into it.
like human, and I think it's called like the subtitles like Aliens Love Curvy Girls or something.
This is delightful.
Oh my God. They're super fun books. So like I read like all the stuff that's like new coming out, and then I'll find really, really weird stuff deep on Amazon, and I'm like, yes, and I just read that.
That is awesome.
Oh, Lord. Ice Planet series. Quite the books.
Oh my God. They are crack.
So
I read the first one, and I feel like I was not adequately prepared, and I was very upset with the people who who had read it and did not say anything before I had started it. But let's see here. Oh, and then I guess a good segue from that, Maureen asks, besides romance, what other genres do you like?
So I read mostly nonfiction, actually. I just love it. I feel like it kind of helps inspire me to write romance, oddly enough, because I feel like it's when we learn kind of the crazy, weird stories, it makes the sort of impossible fantasies feel less far-fetched, because truth really is stranger than fiction. And also sometimes it's just good to get out of the genre, I think, because we don't want to become an echo chamber, right? We don't want to sort of just have the same voice and the same stories and the same ideas. And so it's good to break out of that. So I love reading nonfiction, and like also like fantasy a lot. She's a big thriller reader. She loves to be like scared and
I read a lot of thrillers. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Probably more thrillers than anything else. Like I read romance, but if it's like what I'm going to do to kind of check out of everything, I'll read a thriller.
I also read kind of slow too, so I want to read. I actually have like a mountain of nonfiction books in my room that I've been meaning to read. I'll get to those eventually, and a lot of those are actually research for romances, but like interesting stuff that I've been wanting to read about for a long time. Like fun stuff about like white women who own slaves, stuff like that.
That's great.
And like arson, stuff like that. But I actually like how I check out. I actually watch a lot of television.
TV is so good for creativity.
Really
I also live for your tweets.
I know.
I watch a lot of television, and I actually feel like that helps with my writing too, because if I'm watching a show that has like a bad romantic arc, or if it's just like not working, it's kind of a really good lesson on like what not to do when it comes to storytelling. I also like love true crime. That's like, and not like serial killer obsessed true crime, like actually like this is what happened to the victim and we're going to tell you their story true crime. So yeah, I watch a lot of TV, a lot of movies, and like a lot of true crime shows. That's kind of how I reboot. And then when my brain is up to it, I'm mostly still reading romance. There's just so many books I want to read. So
and romance is such a prolific genre, and there's so much talent in it that it's actually sometimes hard to catch up with other stuff because it feels like there's just every Tuesday there's just constantly good content. And I mean, it is an embarrassment of riches. This is such a great genre to read and write in, but it does make it hard, especially in a time where I'm feeling slow. It feels really hard to stay on top of books. My stack on my nightstand is like legitimately so tall.
I also like biographies, and I say that it helps me. I feel like I've had sort of a small life in that, like, I've been married to the same person since I was 18 and we started dating when I was 16. I've lived in the same place almost my entire life. So outside of sort of like writing and traveling for writing, I've had, you know, kind of a small life. So it like reading biographies really helps me kind of like get a window into other lives and experience things I haven't. And I think it helps write characters.
Amazing. Let's see. Would you ever, would any three of you, would you ever write a non-romance genre book?
Yes.
What
we have an idea for a thriller.
We have an idea for a thriller, and I have an idea for like a pop science book, but I don't know when I would find time because that's a ton of research.
And we have a YA book. I mean, we've written YA.
Yeah.
We have 2 YA books, or 3, but we also have a YA book that has never been published. It was the one that we got our agent with. So I don't know if we'll ever do anything with that or under a different name or what.
Do you have a couple of thriller recs you want to put
Oh,
in
okay.
there?
Thriller recs.
Okay.
Let's see. Okay. My Lovely Wife is great. Someone we know. With The Wedding List, I just finished. It was great. Never Have I Ever. Is that what it's called? Yeah. Never Have I Ever. I'll look on my phone and then I'll put them in the chat. I think my favorite out of those is My Lovely Wife, and then Someone We Know.
My Lovely Wife is definitely like Ratchet Up the Creepy. Oh, sorry, Rebecca, go for it.
It's creepy.
Yeah, I want to write. I also have an idea for like a horror, like more of a like straight up horror novel.
That scares me because you're not afraid of
like.
That's actually like part of the reason why I haven't done it yet, because I know I would write a super dark book and people would be like, "Are you okay?" So that's one of the reasons why I haven't done it yet, because I know I would write some crazy murder plot and it would just be like insane. And also like I'm one of those people who's like, my imagination goes to like the craziest worst scenario. So like I'm really worried about being like kidnapped and like sex trafficked and like how horrible, you know, like the worst of the worst. So I would like definitely go there. I do want to write YA one day. Hopefully that happens. And I think I want to write like, I guess, paranormal sci-fi also that doesn't necessarily have romance, but just like weird fantasy stuff. I want to write some like really weird stuff. So it's all there.
Love it. All right, so I
want a CeeLo Spoon book. I just love your brain.
Crazy thriller.
Are these all books that are on your list that you sent to Holly that you tweet about?
Oh my God, that tweet made me so stressed out.
I mean, we were talking, and when her and I were just talking, it was like 15 books, and then she was like, "Okay, open a document, write down everything you want to write," and it's like it's the first book in a bunch of different things. So like everything I wrote down didn't include like book 2, 3, whatever, and I really think it's up to like 38 title, like 38 first books right now.
That makes me so happy though, as one of your readers. I'm like, please don't ever leave us.
And to end here, because I know we are running out of time, in a more open-ended future thinking question, what is the future of romance fiction? What's on or will be trending?
I mean, I think we're going to see a lot more diverse books by, own voices books. And I think sometimes people like talk about tropes and then they say like, oh, that trope is done or that trope. Well, no, but it hasn't been done by everybody.
Mhm.
So I think we'll get a lot of those books exploring these tropes, but like with brand new voices. And
I think paranormal is going to make a comeback.
I think so too.
I'm so ready. Vampires for sure, but I want like 12 really meaty, really porny shifter series. That's like I'm just
Yeah.
hopefully it's coming. Nalini Singh's been holding it down, boy. She's been keeping shifters alive for a long time.
Yeah.
I am hoping, and I saw a publisher ask this question on Twitter a couple weeks ago, and I'm hoping they go with it. I am dying for more diverse historicals.
Yeah.
yeah.
Historicals with people of color, historicals that don't take place in Britain. Like I would love to just do historicals around the world. I think that's like definitely something romance needs, and I hope that's what we get.
Yeah, the one we're writing right now is like a kind of modern take on Romancing the Stone, and so I would love to see some adventure romance.
Yeah.
Like, give me the Indiana Jones Romancing the Stone vibes as a reader too. So there's just so many places it can go. It's the best genre, and it moves so fast, and it's great.
Mm-hmm.
I love it. I love it here.
Amazing. Oh, that's a great endpoint. So just before we wrap here, can you all just remind everyone where to find you and obviously your latest books so that everyone can go buy them?
We're just, I think our Twitter is just like Christina Lauren. Our Facebook might be Christina Lauren Books. Instagram is Christina Lauren. Yep.
Perfect.
Again, If the Boot Fits comes out. I have 19 books over here. If the Boot Fits comes out October 27th. I'm RebekahWeatherspoon.com, Rebekah Weatherspoon on Instagram and Facebook, and then r.spoon spelled out on Twitter. And I'm mostly on Twitter if that's where you're looking for me.
Perfect. All right. Well, thank you so much to.
Thank you for having us. This has been really great. And thanks for doing this, Lily. We love you so much.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Lily. It's really always a pleasure to get to do things with you. And I am excited for almost everything, although a little trepidatious about the Rumpelstiltskin romance.
I get to it. Don't listen to her, Rebekah. We need this. Sorry.
A little weirded out about that, but
I promise.
But nobody's doing it. We need it. I want it.
thank you to the authors. Thank you to Lily for hosting. Thank you to all the readers for joining us. And have a great night, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you, Lily.
Conversations.
Thanks, Lily.
Bye, Rebekah.
Bye, Rebekah.
Bye, Mary Elizabeth.